You're listening to the Reinvest Podcast, where each Tuesday we show business owners and entrepreneurs how to diversify into real estate by equipping you with the tools and tactics to build generational wealth. Your hosts, Garrett Gatton and Seth Ciminillo.
Welcome back to episode 139 of the Reinvest Podcast, and today we got a great guest here with us today, Richard Wilson. Richard, how are you?
Good. How you doing, Seth?
I am doing well today. It's great to have you on. Richard, from the small list of things that I know about you, you're founder of the Family Office Club, creator of Investor Superintelligence, which is an AI tool for real estate investors. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah, close enough. We'll get into it, I'm sure.
We'll get to it. Seems like you are very active in the real estate investor space, run a lot of live events for investors, kind of have prolific influence kind of out there in social media, podcasts, YouTube. And so it's awesome to have you on here. Why don't you just give us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I started our investor club, which is focused on the ultra wealthy segment of, family offices 18 years ago. So we've hosted 300 live events during that time. We've made 42 little acquisitions to help build up our platform, and we've grown to 17 million social media group members and followers. And so a lot of the deal structures and deal flow and investors and fund managers we meet are really from our, 22 to 30 live events a year we host, or from like social media or, podcasts like this.
So yeah, it sounds like, 17 million, that's a lot. It's a big number. So you start to probably get a lot of alignment, between all your businesses with that much going on. So that's pretty cool. I guess I just want to start out. How did you even get into this real estate segment? What did you do prior to this, prior to running the Family Office Club and this investing club of people?
Sure. Yeah, well, I started half a dozen businesses like in grade school, middle school, high school. Really, all of them failed, but taught me things. And then in college, I started a business that started making me money. I sold it to some other students when I graduated. Everybody wanted to pay me $30-some thousand a year, coming out of Oregon State University, not exactly Harvard. And I didn't want that. So I cold called everybody in the Chamber of Commerce. Somebody told me, would love to hire you, but you need 7 years experience. I said, well, I'll work for you for free and I can do this work. You can fire me in the first hour if I'm horrible. She gave me a job and I made 6 figures my first year out of college. I made more money than my professors who told me not to rush through school the year before.
And what was that job?
I got what was that?
What was that career field or job?
Oh, yeah, it was risk consulting for Sarbanes-Oxley risk control implementation.
That seems like really specific. What was your degree in?
My degree was just in business. I did 3 months of computer science, and then it was just a business degree. So It wasn't an accounting degree. I had no accounting experience, and they wanted 7 years of accounting experience to get hired there. So anyways, they paid for my MBA in cash. And then when my MBA was done, I was like, well, this is a pretty boring job to do. I don't want to do this forever. Who else is going to pay me 6 figures at 23 years old? Just about nobody.
Yeah.
But I figured if I could work in commercial real estate or raising capital, it's eat what you kill. It doesn't matter how old I am, just what I can get done. And I knew I could get done more than what people thought I could by looking at my age. And so I got job offers in commercial real estate, and then I got a chance to study psychology of influence and persuasion through Harvard. And so I moved to Boston, didn't know anyone there, and I did risk consulting out there, started doing the Harvard courses, and I started working for free for a capital raising shop because they didn't want to pay me because I had no experience. And then that's how I learned how to raise capital, work with investors, and that's how I stumbled upon family offices. And then it all kind of took off from there.
So how old were you at that point when you moved to Boston?
24 years old. I got my MBA done at 23, and then I was 24 and I moved to Boston, and I was 26 when I started Family Office Club. So I was just a kid, basically.
Yeah, that's awesome. So did you complete your degree at Harvard just out of curiosity? Did you follow through, or once you got sucked into the real estate raising capital side, you kind of went all in on that?
Yeah, so I got my MBA done, and then I did a master's program in psychology at Harvard. Got all the classes done. There was one professor who's psychology of influence professor, and he loved my thesis of applying Robert Cialdini's influence principles to raising capital. and how to raise capital using Cialdini's principles. He approved my thesis project. I went to the head of the psychology department. I was the only business person in the department. She wouldn't approve it. I tried three more times. She wouldn't approve it. And meanwhile, my business took off to seven figures. And I was like, you know what? Keep your piece of paper. Harvard, business has taken off and it's
Yeah.
been doing well since. So it's probably like one of the top five reasons my business has done well is understanding the psychology of influence and all of that. So I got the value out of it for sure, and no one ever asked for my resume, but they wouldn't
Right.
rubber stamp me because it didn't fit the mold, I think.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Well, that's
Yeah,
pretty cool. It's a unusual way to kind of get into this real estate space, I think, from what I normally hear. But
right.
it sounds like you've spent the majority of maybe this real estate professional career in the raising capital side. And so I would like to get your opinion with interest rates raising. There's a lot of uncertainty, some big notes coming due, just out in the real estate space with retail and office. Where are you seeing are people hesitant right now with their capital? Are people kind of holding on? Or if there's a good opportunity, are you still seeing a lot of appetite?
Well, I think it's important to note that, like, when you run an investor club, it only works if you have both deal flow and investors. And so we kind of sit at the intersection of the two. We've helped close about $500 million of transactions. Maybe, I don't know, 10 or 20, at most 50 million of that is from raising capital. Most of it's allocating capital from, like, one of our billionaire clients has done 19 deals with us. Have sourced many deals for the Centimillionaire. I serve as an outsourced chief investment officer for, et cetera. But I can still answer your question. 2.5 times as much capital was raised in 2022 compared to 2024. Right now, investors like first position, real estate credit, or just credit funds, debt funds in general, because they get equity-like returns with security of debt in their minds. And the hurdle is higher on an equity deal because it might not produce income that's very interesting for the risk.
Right.
So it's a lot harder to raise capital. I find there's a flight to quality because every investor, including myself, are inside of deals where distributions have been completely cut off or reduced by 90%, or your equity is at risk, or your equity is completely wiped out. And every major investor I know is facing multiple versions of all of those things within multiple deals in their portfolio. So they've learned very clearly that anyone can promise anything on a piece of paper. Anyone
Right.
can say their IRR is this, it's going to be this multiple. There's never a bad pro forma. I can model world peace in a spreadsheet if you give me a couple of minutes. Like, it means nothing, right? It's all about trust, knowing the people, being high conviction, knowing how they add value, being certain about things.
No, awesome. Yeah, no, I love it. One of the things that's interesting when we were looking through your bio was you have a company that creates AI tools to help real estate investors. And so I think one of the main topics I'd like to focus on for today is how is AI transforming the future of real estate investing? And then how are your tools tactically helping people?
Yeah, sure. Well, I think first of all, AI is going to change the world more than electricity or the internet. And I think that it's changing rapidly in front of us. One person just last week estimated that between people getting better at using AI, the models getting smarter, all the data centers that are going online, in some areas, there's a 27x improvement per year with the use of AI.
Hmm.
Another way to say it is that right now, if you took all the intelligence in your brain, my brain, and everybody's brains on planet Earth, we represent over 99% of all the intelligence on planet Earth. But in a decade, human intelligence will be 1% of the intelligence, and AI is going to represent 99% of the intelligence in the
Hmm.
world. So if you are not using AI, it's literally like other people have learned how to ride a horse or drive a car, and you're like, no, I'm just going to walk everywhere. It's basically like there's a second brain you can use. And if you don't want a second brain, that's fine. You should always use your human brain, even if you do use your second brain, which is AI. But by using the second brain, it's going to have capabilities you don't have. You're going to have capabilities it doesn't have. And it can have knowledge retrieval, knowledge analysis, looking up deep data sources, giving you intelligence in areas where you're not a domain expert. And so if you get GPT for free, the free version, it has an IQ of about 105. If you get the $20 a month version, it has an IQ of 125. If you get the $200 a month version, it might be 135 or higher. And so you're literally choosing, do you want your second brain to be average, to be dumb, to be top 10%, to be top 1%? And so all we're doing with investor super intelligence, and we can go into like many examples of how, is we're just saying the second brain has all these capabilities, but it's not highly specialized to the niche of investing, due diligence, sorting through deals, negotiating structures, coming up with custom deal structures, negotiating fees, improving a pitch deck, being concise in communications, getting investors' attention, all the things that anyone dealing with deal making needs to navigate. So we're trying to connect investors and deal makers and founders to super intelligence. And the more that AI grows, then the more and more tools we're developing to connect this like second brain to this industry.
So, is this all built on the back of just ChatGPT, OpenAI? Are they all, or is it a separate
Sure.
application?
Yeah, so at the core of it is about 70 pages of prompts based on 57 different tools that are all ready to use and don't need training. They're all pre-trained, ready to use tools. And then it's built on data from 300 of our live events, 1,500 investors on stage, 1,000 deal structure library, 150 due diligence checklists and reports, et cetera. That's like the infrastructure. Currently, we've found that custom GPTs are the easiest way to get all of those prompts based on all that data to give structured output to our users. If at some point Notebook LM races ahead, or at some point, Copilot or someone comes out with something that is easier, quicker, more practical, more secure, et cetera, it's always a neck and neck race between the top three groups. Then we'll port it over to a different platform. But right now, it's ran through custom GPTs.
Okay, so what's an example? Could you give us a couple examples of just some of the tools? I mean, you were kind of mentioning underwriting. I mean, you guys have a tool
Yeah.
for underwriting and how would that practically look for someone to interact with a tool like that?
Yeah, sure. So the easiest thing to do is just take a pitch deck and a PPM of a deal that somebody's pitched you. You upload it to our Dewey Instant Due Diligence Advisor, and then it will analyze not only what the top risks are and what's missing, what's a red flag. It will go through about 20 different areas of analysis. Because even if you are patient and focused and you read every single word of a 160-page PPM, your eyes will probably glaze over and you'll miss something. Even if you're an attorney, which you're probably not, you will have to reference all these different paragraphs between each other within the agreement. And there could be things missing that your brain just doesn't pick up on. And so the analysis will help pick up on many things that you may miss as a human. And it will also write out 7 suggested questions for first pass due diligence. If you want it to write up 30 or 100, it'll do that too. But it'll say, here's the first 7 questions you should probably ask before you get on any phone call or any meeting. And if they can't answer those 7, you're probably wasting your time like engaging with this group at all. And then
Right.
that can save people a ton of time. And that same tool, you could go to a busy conference like one of our 400 person investor summits and then come back with like 10 pitch decks and then gather them all up, upload them, and have them compete in a little UFC cage match within Dewey and rank them and sort them and then figure out who the top 3 are based on your values or based on
Yeah.
your priorities or asymmetrical risk or whatever it is. But that's the first example on underwriting. I could give another on deal structures if you want.
Yeah, go
But I
ahead.
want to stop it. Okay. So the due diligence tool has been our most popular. We've had over 1,000 due diligence reports ran through the Dewey tool. But the other one that one of our participants said at our full day AI workshop, he called this tool like a gift from the gods because he thought it was like so exciting. And I honestly think like it will change people's lives, this tool. And so essentially we have a library of 1,000 deal structures which were put together through deep research and our own experience and all the investor transcripts speaking on stage at our events. And then in this 1,000 library of deal structures, you basically can chat with it and say, I'm negotiating this deal to buy a plumbing company, or I'm structuring a deal to invest in this real estate property. Here are the terms I care about. Here's the terms the counterparty cares about. Here's what could blow up the deal. And I really want to emphasize this, like performance fees or preserving equity or collateral, whatever it is. And then you submit that to the Deal Structure Ninja tool, and it will pump out 10 custom deal structures that meet all your criteria. And then you can say, I like number 2 and 8. Show me 10 more like that. And it will do that. Then you can say, I like number 6. Show me 10 more like that. Then you can say, make the collateral part a bit stronger. And it'll produce 10 more. You can do that over and over again. And then it will ask if you want it to write the email pitching each part of the deal structure to the counterparty and your attorney on why this would be good for everybody involved so that everyone understands the structure. And that's a perfect example of taking big data, customizing its application, which is literally the definition of intelligence, is having deep knowledge that you can apply in real time to what's right in front of you. So you have a deep knowledge of 1,000 structures. You're applying it real time, iterating, and then pitching the counterparty that needs to agree to it to have any of it matter. And getting one deal done that otherwise people would have said no to, or getting one deal done with collateral so you sleep at night, or a better return, or at a better price, etc., that it can literally change your life or not, or lose you
Right.
$1 million or make it, so we're pretty excited about that. Those are just two of the 57 tools. And like, those are good examples of like, if those are the only two tools you had, and now every time you do due diligence, you're more thorough, you're more effective, more efficient, and you structure deals better. It's like, that's like amazing to me that that's even possible,
Yeah. How have you, I mean, it sounds like you've spent a lot of time on this and your company spent a lot of time on this. How have you trained your brain to think, how do we outsource more to AI? Because I in my own business, I mean, I'm trying to use it more and more and more. And what are the things that I can essentially not think about and allow OpenAI, ChatGPT, hey, help me write, this listing description, or help me, whatever it is. And
Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like you guys have gotten really tactical. So, I mean, is there a kind of a framework that you use to say, hey, here's an identified problem. How are we going to transfer this into AI?
Yeah, we've gotten super tactical. Most people I talk to use it to help write an email blast, check for grammar mistakes, help them with a proposal of some type, or do research on an idea. One thing that I do routinely is open up several of our tools at once, and then I'll do a Grok heavy and a GPT deep research reports, and then it will go out and reference 50 to 150 websites on each of the deep research reports and analyze and summarize everything that could be found if you spent like a half day or full day of your time researching that topic. And then you get that output and you can use that as the basis for just what's the factual reality of what's going on in the industry. What does data say about what converts best on the number of things to offer, a number of deal structures to offer, or website conversions, etc. So I do a lot of deep research work. I've gotten used to using the voice mode and audio recordings quite a bit, so I can chat with it. And a lot of using AI and getting a lot out of it is not just using it and then getting the result, but getting the result in like the deal structure ninja example, going deeper, and then it just gets so dialed in so quickly that in the past it would have taken a lot of time. So the shortcut to figuring this out for anyone's business, because it's like it needs to be hyper customized to exactly your business flows,
Right.
is just to look at what you spend time on every day. And like my event managers, while getting people to our events, people approach them and they say, hey, I'm an investor. Can I speak at your event? And our team member will pop their name into our tool called Capital Raiser or Investor. And it searches for 10 different things on the person. And then we see, oh, well, they run the Multifamily Syndicator podcast and they have a big multifamily fund. So they might be an investor, but they're investing other people's money. So they're really more of a capital raiser. And so now we know what they are, regardless of what they tell us they are.
Right.
Before we had to look up their LinkedIn profile, do a Google search, do it, and so if you're trying to vet people for deals, we have a tool called Instant Partner Insights, and you might want to search their first and last name, Ponzi scheme, their first and last name, conviction, their first and last name, fraud, scam. And so we have a tool that searches 20 different keywords, does a credibility check, a media check, a podcast check, a website check, online review check, and then summarizes it all in a report on that person so you can instantly see who somebody is. And that's just something practical you have to do in business often. So I would just look at like anything you do repetitively, think how could the second brain do actions for me or think alongside of me. I've got one more quick example of that if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. I've just been taking kind of some notes on this, pretty practical.
Cool.
So go ahead.
Cool. Yeah. And a year ago, I had none of these tools, but I built out every one of these myself. I didn't outsource it or white label it, et cetera. So many CEOs and investors listening could do this. But the other example is we took 1,000 phone calls incoming to my team that we recorded and transcribed through Fireflies, which is like an AI transcription service. We looked for phone calls that were 5 minutes or longer, so they're more meaningful phone calls. And then we analyzed those in AI, and we found that 99% of the prospects were broken up in just seven different industry demographics. Like we had energy people calling in, we had fund managers, we had real estate, we had healthcare, medical companies, et cetera. So that was useful. But the more useful thing is that we trained an AI tool to analyze all of our product offerings, the type of events we offer, all of our AI tools, all of our 1,200 videos in our investor portal, all the benefits of joining our investor club. But then we also got all the 500 transcriptions that were 5 minutes or longer. And we trained the AI tool in all those transcriptions that were said by all six of our salespeople. And then based on all of that rich data, now when somebody answers the phone on my team, we've used this tool over 800 times now while they're talking to Sharon from Ohio, who's like trying to invest in self-storage or raise capital for a self-storage deal. They'll say, I'm talking to an individual in Ohio in self-storage. How can we help her? And then while my salesperson is thinking, the tool is thinking, and it will rip through the 1,200 videos and say, don't forget to mention this video. Don't forget about this. Oh yeah, this AI tool is going to be the most helpful because of where she is in her process. And you could put in an email she sent. You could put in her pitch deck. You could just say, Sharon, Self-Storage, Ohio, any of that stuff. And the second brain customized to think like a sales pro will think alongside my sales pro. And it just, we're all human. There's no way to memorize the 1,200 videos in the portal and
Right.
then like instantly be able to come up with all that stuff.
Right. That's pretty interesting. So that's happening literally while they're on their phone. I mean, so are they
Yep.
like on the phone and typing into this tool at the same time and just prepping
Yep.
the tool so that way it prompts them what to say essentially?
Yep, they've got a headset just like you. And as long as it's not
Yeah.
sensitive information or you have their permission, in theory, you could have the phone on speakerphone and say, oh, well, what do you do, Sharon? Hit the audio button to transcribe on the tool, have her say her one or two sentences about what she does, hit stop, hit enter, and then it will process as your brain processes. The second brain will process and help you give a very thorough, nuanced answer.
So I'm kind of curious. You'd said that before you jumped on here, you'd chat GPT'd our podcast just to kind of
Yep.
get some information on. I mean, what did you learn from that? What did chat GPT have to say?
Yeah, I mean, importantly, some people have like very strong like political opinions, and like so I'm a little bit careful with that. But the exact thing I just pulled up here to get in front of me, is basically like, what are the themes? What are the politics talked about? Top topics that would pop out as super unique and valuable. So it'd be relevant, but it wouldn't sound like everybody else they have on. And so it said some not so obvious value propositions would be to talk about the mindset of billionaires, because we own billionaires.com. We've interviewed 47 of them. So the mindset factor coming up with investors so often, underexposed segments, legacy, as well as insights from some of the family offices and how they've built their balance sheet, like the fastest way they've accumulated wealth as an investor.
Hmm.
But I use it as a cheat sheet anytime I'm getting on
Yeah.
one of these, because then it's like just makes life simpler.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, we use it when we are onboarding a guest. And so we'll take their bio, we'll put it in there. Hey, look up this guest, use this
Right.
bio. What would be relevant topics to discuss in a podcast? And so
Sure.
that was what ChatGPT pulled from yours, was pulling out more of the AI stuff. And so it has been helpful. Sometimes it misses stuff or doesn't get things correctly.
Right.
But for quick, just throwing some stuff together in a short period of time, it's really helpful.
Yeah, they say that humans hallucinate, and so do AI tools. It's just humans do in more predictable ways. So sometimes it can be a little frustrating. AI might mess up something that like was simple, but humans mess up stuff as well. And then they say that if you get a PhD and spend 5 or 7 years doing that, it can boost your IQ by 10 points. But if you use an AI co-pilot for your industry, it can also boost your IQ by 10 points. So it's pretty amazing. And like that is where AI is right now. Like in the future, it's just going to make you be able to be that much smarter knowing how to use it. So it's like it's a skill set that I think every CEO needs to get dialed in on.
I think the fear is out there with AI is that it's going to replace a lot, and I'm sure it has replaced certain jobs already. I
Right.
mean, what's your opinion? Do you think it's more going to enhance and make people more efficient, and that's kind of the replacing because it's going to take less people to do the same amount of work? Or do you think it's actually going to like cancel out industries? I work in the real estate space, and I'm a real estate agent as well, and so
Yeah.
you know, there's the fear out there where it's like, oh, Zillow's going to learn how to use AI, and we're not going to have agents anymore. And I'm like, I don't know. It just seems like you kind of need people like at a certain level.
Yeah.
So what have you seen, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think there'll always be some people who prefer to work with people and they'd rather pay a premium to have a real human on it. There's going to be a lot of times where AI makes it way more efficient and there'll be super agents like yourself who may be AI enabled and you're able to get way more done and you're going to dominate others that don't use AI at all to attract leads or navigate things, et cetera. And as an investor, you might be able to see and analyze way more properties using AI. In general, I think it's underplayed how much AI is going to kind of rock society and put massive amounts of people out of jobs. And I think that some of them will be retrained as plumbers and electricians so that those don't cost more than our attorneys like they do now. And then
Right.
some will do startups related to AI and it will create innovation. There'll be all these new little startups because of AI. But I also think there'll be a lot of cars set on fire and pitchforks out because people won't know what to do and politicians will be caught flat-footed. And then even Republican conservatives that don't support more liberal policies will be supportive of universal income because there's no other way to solve the problem. And I see that as the most common solution talked about by the AI super nerds is that, yeah, of course, 33 to 50% of all jobs will be eliminated. And of course, we'll need universal income. It's like pretty much what they all say if you
Hmm.
listen to like the masses of AI nerds. And so
Interesting.
I think that there'll be big winners and there's going to be some negative things that come out of it. And whether it's good or bad for you and your family is really whether you implement and learn this stuff and apply it and play with it, et cetera. I think it's just the harsh reality of the gravity of AI.
Yeah, that's interesting. All right, we're going to jump kind of off the AI stuff, and we are
Sure.
going to move forward into our smaller pocket segment. So you have done a lot of deals. You've been in a lot of rooms. You've seen a lot of stuff working with billionaires, millionaires. You've seen a lot. What's been one of the worst deals you've been a part of, or maybe that you were involved in? And then what went wrong? And more importantly, what did you learn from it?
Sure. I think the worst one was a oil and gas group. It was led by an individual who was a veteran. He only hired veterans. I got to meet him in person. I met him three more times in person. I had a $50,000 due diligence report on him from a recognized firm. And I just did a test investment with him. But it went above and beyond on every step of due diligence you'd possibly want to do. Besides, I did not walk his office in person or walk the oil fields in person. But just about everything a private investor would do from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up turning himself in as a complete fraud and had lost $40 million of investor
No
capital.
way.
And, one thing I learned from that is just that you can do everything right, quote unquote, from a due diligence standpoint. And still somebody can just lie to their auditor, lie to their CFO, lie to their CPA and fake numbers. Like at the end of the day, there's always going to be a good amount of risk and you just have to know that that's part of investing and kind of just do what you can to manage that as a project and then like move on from it and just kind of recognize that that could always happen no matter what somebody tells you.
So that company that you'd paid to do the due diligence, I mean, $50,000 is a lot of money. So, I mean, there was obviously, I guess, no guarantees from that company. I mean, they were just,
Right.
and they must have had access just to virtual information if they did not also go there in person.
Right,
It
right.
just
And
almost
I
seems like,
didn't personally pay them the $50,000, but the investment group that I was connected to was like an investment platform, and they
mm-hmm,
had like commissioned that report and paid for it. And then they had shared that with other investors. And so, but yeah, there's never any guarantee on
Yeah,
those. It should make it less risky, you would think. And I'm sure it
you would think.
does. But
Yeah, I'm sure it's one of those things where it's like every now and then a bad actor probably still slips through, but I'm
yeah.
sure you would
Yep.
hope that it would be there 95% of the time and be helpful. Okay, well, that's awesome. What you'd mentioned earlier, just even from one of the chat GPT prompts, about working with billionaires. And so what's been kind of from, talking to all these billionaires, what's been the most surprising kind of mindset shift that you see that's kind of more specific or unique to billionaires?
How strongly opinionated they are that you have to offer something unique. You can't bore people to death into buying from you. You have to have unique strategies where other people are going to say, you're stupid. You have no idea what you're doing. You don't know how this industry works. That's not normal. That's not how things are done. All of the massive breakthroughs came from doing something different that was massively better. Many of them say they've never met someone super successful that didn't work very hard. And many of them say who you spend your time with matters more than what you set out to do.
Hmm.
So, who you choose to marry, where you live, who your friends are, what media you consume, what books you read, who your clients are, all of that matters more than your little bullet points of what you're trying to do is who you spend your time with. So, I think that like those themes come up all the time. There's
Yeah.
some other ones, but if anyone's curious on that whole rabbit hole, billionaires.com is our site. It's free to access. We've interviewed 40 some billionaires on there. And then the top 10 books out of the 250 books authored by billionaires, I've read about 130 of them. And if you go to billionaires.com/books, the top 10 billionaire books that I like best are right there on the website in case anyone wanted to check it out.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Whoops. Hit that a little early, but this is our little nugget segment. And so what is one practical takeaway or piece of advice that you can give to our listeners to impart into their business?
Sure. Yeah, I think that one thing would be to identify strategic choke points that you can acquire that give you momentum and they get you distribution, sales, capital. If you don't know what a choke point is, I would read Vern Harnish's book, Mastering the Rockefeller Habits, and just really focus on investing time into choke points. Because if you can do that, then as an investor, you can start to source deals first, exclusively, and at a better valuation than anybody else. And if you get to see deals first and exclusively and at lower valuations, your balance sheet is going to compound. If you follow the herd, you're going to do average at best, probably.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, I really appreciate your time today. How can people enter into your network and find out more about your success?
Sure. Our main website is familyoffices.com. So you can see our, 25 or so live events per year, our AI tools, our membership options at familyoffices.com. And then my best email is just richard@familyoffices.com.
Awesome. Well, Richard, I really appreciate it. The AI stuff is super interesting. I encourage all of our listeners out there. I mean, really try to dig into that stuff for yourself. How can you implement that into your own businesses? Try to think outside the box that way. And I'm definitely going to be getting on there and checking out your tools. So thank you.
Cool. Thank you. Take care, Seth.
As always, excited that you joined us for another episode of the Reinvest Podcast. If you want to learn how you can use your hard-earned capital to diversify into real estate, go to our website, reinvestcapital.us, and shoot us a message. Move farther, reach higher, and grow deeper.